They said it was just a bad, simple thing that happened. A big, fast car hit a loyal dog, and that was the end of the story, they thought. But 3 whole days later, the dog's collar showed up. It was hanging right on the gate of its owner's house. The collar was clean and shiny, like it was new, but it was dripping with red blood that did not belong to the dog. What happened next would shock every single person in the quiet town. Somehow, the dog that everyone thought was dead and buried led the police step by step straight to the person who did the crime. This is the long, true story of Rusty, the brave dog that solved his own mystery. The town was called Maplewood. It was known for being safe, calm, and full of friendly people who smiled a lot. The houses had nice lawns, and everyone knew everyone else's dogs. Clara Benson was an older, very kind lady. She used to be a librarian, which means she loved books and quiet. She had only one family left since her husband passed away, her big, loving golden dog named Rusty. Rusty was her shadow, her best friend, and her whole world. Every evening, rain or shine, they took the same walk. Rusty trotted happily, his leash held gently in Clara's hand. On one cold evening, the streetlights were foggy, and a light rain was falling. Clara and Rusty were walking down Birch Street, the biggest street in their town. Suddenly, the whole street filled up with bright, blinding headlights. A huge black fast car, an SUV, came zooming around the corner much too fast. It was going faster than it should have, making a loud, scary noise. Clara tried to scream, but the sound caught in her throat. She couldn't pull Rusty back in time. The black car hit Rusty with a sickening thud and did not stop. It just sped off into the darkness, leaving only the sound of rain behind. Clara dropped to the wet ground. She crawled to her dog's side, the rain mixing with her hot tears. She talked to Rusty in soft whispers, trying to get him to move, trying to help. But by the time a neighbor saw the lights and ran over, Rusty was gone. He was very still. The next morning, the ground behind Clara's small cottage was soft and muddy. They buried Rusty there, wrapped in his favorite yellow blanket. The local police came. They looked at the scene. They wrote a report. The police chief told Clara it was just a hit and run. That means the driver hit the dog and ran away without stopping to help. They said there was no mystery, just a sad accident. But Clara could not stop shaking her head. She stayed awake that night, thinking. She remembered seeing deep, strange cuts along Rusty's neck, and the tire marks on the wet ground were big and wide. They did not match any car that belonged to anyone in Maplewood. Clara felt a cold, hard knot in her stomach. She knew in her heart that this was not just an accident. For 3 days, Clara just sat inside, too sad to do anything. The house felt huge and empty without the sound of Rusty's paws clicking on the floor. Then, on the 3rd morning, Clara woke up to a tiny scratching sound right outside her front door. Scratch, scratch. It was the kind of sound Rusty used to make when he wanted her to let him in. Clara's heart pounded hard. She slowly walked to the door. She opened it and looked down. There it was, Rusty's collar. It was shiny and wet, hanging right on the big black metal gate by the front steps. It looked like someone had taken the time to clean and polish it perfectly. It gleamed in the morning light. But then Clara saw the red. The collar was dripping with fresh, sticky blood. It made a tiny drip, drip, drip sound on the wooden porch floor. Clara looked all around her small yard. No footprints, no signs of digging, no paw prints, no person was in sight. Just that clean collar, hanging there, bleeding. She called the police right away. Her voice was shaking so hard she could barely talk. Detective Eli Parker came to her house. He was a tall man, calm and very smart. He looked at the collar with a serious face. "Maybe someone is playing a mean, sick trick on you," another police officer suggested. But Detective Parker did not agree. He carefully took the collar and put it in a clean plastic bag. He sent it to the police lab to find out whose blood it was. The results came back that evening. The blood on the collar was not Rusty's. Rusty was a dog. This blood belonged to a human man. That's the moment when the sad accident turned into a much darker, dangerous mystery. The dog's collar was now a weapon, and the death of Rusty was only the beginning of a big crime. Detective Parker now had a new mission. This was no longer a simple road crime. He now had to find a man whose blood was on a dead dog's collar. He drove to Clara's house 2 nights later. He sat in his police car, watching her cottage in the dark, silent night. Suddenly, he heard it too. Soft, low whimpers. Then a noise like something scratching on wood or dirt. And finally, a low growl. Detective Parker had never met Rusty, but the sound felt old and strong, like a warning. Clara heard it inside her house too. She grabbed her biggest flashlight. She was not scared anymore. She was angry and determined. She stepped out onto the damp grass and shone her bright light into the darkness. The light hit the spot where Rusty was buried. The ground was messed up. Someone had been digging there, or something had tried to get out. The dirt was loose and spread all over the grass. Clara walked closer. There were muddy paw prints on the ground, leading away from the grave and toward the thick woods behind her house. But that was impossible. Rusty was dead, and right next to the paw prints, half hidden in the loose dirt, was a dark, wet object. It was a glove, a thick work glove, soaked with blood. Detective Parker quickly grabbed the glove. This was the biggest clue yet. He sent it to the lab right away. The results came back fast. The glove belonged to a man named Nathan Cole, who lived right next door to Clara. Nathan was a local mechanic, a person who fixes cars. Nathan also owned a big black SUV, the same kind of car that was seen speeding away the night Rusty was killed. Detective Parker drove over to Nathan Cole's house. Nathan was shocked to see the police. Nathan swore he had nothing to do with any dog. He said his car had been broken that night and was sitting in the shop. He was at home sleeping, he said. But Detective Parker did not believe him. He went to the gas station 2 miles down the road. They had a security camera pointed at the street. The police played the videotape. They saw Nathan's black SUV driving by at 10:42 p.m., the exact moment Rusty was hit. Nathan was lying about his car being broken. Now Detective Parker knew Nathan hit Rusty, but why did Nathan come back to the grave? And why was his blood on the collar? Parker rewound the gas station video. He watched it frame by frame, very slowly. Then came the big, shocking twist. As Nathan's black SUV sped away from Birch Street, Parker saw something moving far behind it. It was a dog. The dog was running fast, limping badly, but very determined. It was chasing the car that had just hit it. Detective Parker's mouth went dry. This was impossible. The time on the video was right. Rusty had been hit and was supposedly dead on the street. Was the dog a ghost? No. The dog was running to reveal the truth. Something or someone was trying to show the police where to look. Detective Parker knew they had to check the grave again. He knew the truth was hidden right there. The next morning, the police brought equipment to Clara's cottage. They started to dig up Rusty's grave. Clara stood by, holding her breath, tears in her eyes. When the workers finally lifted the coffin, Everyone gasped. Inside the yellow blanket was not the body of a dog. Inside the hole was the body of Ethan Marks, a teenage boy who had been missing for 2 weeks. Rusty had been killed and buried somewhere else. Nathan and his friends had used the dog's grave to hide a human body. Nathan broke down in the police station. He could not hide the truth anymore. He confessed everything. He and 2 friends were driving fast and drinking. They accidentally hit the boy, Ethan. They got scared and buried Ethan in the soft dirt behind Clara's cottage. Days later, Rusty smelled the dead boy's body and started sniffing and digging at the grave. Nathan saw the dog and knew the dog would tell the secret. Nathan tried to grab Rusty and silence him, but Rusty was a brave dog. Rusty bit Nathan's hand very hard and ran away. That night, Nathan chased Rusty down in his SUV and ran him over, killing him to keep the secret quiet. But Rusty's bite had made Nathan bleed everywhere. That was the human blood, later found on the collar, left as a final, clear message. It was as if Rusty had marked his killer with his teeth, and even after his death, led the smart detective right back to the secret spot and the big crime hidden there. Rusty was finally buried in a beautiful spot next to Clara's husband. His new headstone was placed with honor. It read, "He protected the innocent, even after death." Detective Parker stood at the new grave holding his hat. He whispered softly so only Rusty could hear, "Good job, boy." Sometimes justice doesn't come with loud barking. It just waits for a good dog to leave a clear clue.